Welcome back, friends. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone say just the right words to you at just the right moment and felt like a light switched on somewhere inside your chest? That's what we're talking about today, and I promise you, by the end of this one, you'll never think about your own words the same way again. So settle in, and let's get started. One of the greatest gifts any of us have ever been given is our language, our simple ability to speak, our ability to frame words together in such a way that we create images, pictures, entire worlds in someone else's mind. Help someone understand, help someone become educated, help someone finally see what they couldn't see before. Honestly, it's almost a godlike kind of power when you stop to think about it. I've got 4 steps I want to walk through with you today for achieving good communication. Let's keep it simple, because there really aren't many fundamentals to anything in life. Just a handful, maybe 6, 7, 8 at most. Here's the first step to achieving good communication. Number 1, have something good to say. That sounds obvious, doesn't it? But it's worth stating plainly. Try to recall, remember, and take notes. Keep a journal, whatever method works for you, of your own experiences. Because as you live your life, you're going to accumulate something worth saying. Some of it from your failures, some of it from your successes. You'll have something valuable to share drawn from the mistakes you're about, and how you corrected course and pulled yourself back up. And sometimes, instead of just letting it sit in your head, why not commit it to paper? That way it gets logged, it gets recorded, and someday down the road, you can pull it back out and put it to good use. Have something good to say. The real key to speaking well, the real key to excellent communication, is preparation. Honestly, our entire life is one long stretch of preparation. This year prepares us for the next. Those first several grades of school prepare us for high school. High school prepares us for college. College prepares us for a career. A career prepares us to earn a living. And then we prepare further still, learning how to invest wisely, how to build a real financial foundation around our family. One strong enough that very little can break through it. We're always preparing for the next step, the next stage. That's simply part of the game of life. For us humans, it seems to take an especially long time to get ready. Compare that to a baby wildebeest out on the open plains. That little creature has maybe 1 hour, one single hour, to get up on its legs and be ready to run with the herd, or risk becoming a meal for a lion. 1 hour. So the moment it's born, it tries standing, and falls right back down. Its mother nudges it gently, urging it up again. It falls again. Stand up, try again, come on. Why all that urgency? Because the lions aren't far off. Come on, come on, come on. And somehow, within less than an hour, that brand new little creature is standing strong enough to run alongside the herd and stay alive. Human babies take quite a bit longer than that. After 17 years of raising a child, we're still not entirely confident they can outrun every lion life throws at them, or find their own safe place in the world. So preparation, the whole slow process of getting ready, can feel awfully tedious sometimes. You finish grade 1, and now you've got grade 2 waiting. Then grade 3 right behind it. Will it ever end? One more grade, then another, then another. It feels like it takes forever to finally get ready, to design a life, find a partner, build a family, build a career, build some kind of security for the future. But all of that slow preparation matters, especially when it comes to learning how to communicate well. I think that comparison is worth sitting with a bit longer, because it says something important about patience. We often get frustrated with how long our own preparation seems to take, comparing ourselves to people who appear to have arrived somewhere far ahead of us. But nature herself shows us there's no single timeline for readiness. The wildebeest needs an hour because its whole environment demands it. We need years, sometimes decades, because what we're preparing for is so much more complex. A whole life, a whole character, a whole set of relationships and responsibilities. Don't rush your own preparation just because someone else's timeline looks different from yours. Different creatures, different demands, different clocks. Here are some good words worth preparing around if you want to become a genuinely strong communicator. Number 1, interest. Simply keep your interest alive in people and in places. If you develop a real interest in the world around you, both when things are going right side up and when everything's turned upside down, that interest will serve you well. Take a keen interest in the events of the day, the speeches being given, everything unfolding around you, because that gives you real material to think through, to form opinions on, to decide where you actually stand on the major issues. Not just political issues, but the bigger questions of life itself. Be that genuinely interested in life and in people. Underline those two words, life and people. That's really the whole study, isn't it? Study life in all its twists and turns. Study people in all their wonderful, occasionally frustrating variety, especially if you're ever in a position where you need people to work alongside you. That's a real challenge, bringing together different ages, different opinions, different personalities, different temperaments, all under one roof, working towards something shared. Here's a skill I picked up along the way that ended up paying me quite well. Learning how to get people to genuinely work together. Think about it. If everyone involved is different, a whole wide variety of personalities and perspectives, how in the world do you get them all pulling in the same direction? I'll tell you honestly, it isn't easy. Organizing people, getting them to cooperate, is a real challenge. But the payoff, the actual reward for mastering that skill, is remarkable. Now, if you're working with especially independent-minded people, that challenge multiplies. It's a bit like trying to herd cats. Have you ever attempted that? Herding sheep is fairly simple. They naturally fall in line and move together in the same direction almost instantly. Cats are an entirely different story. Give me 8 cats, and I guarantee you they'll scatter in 8 completely different directions. But if you can somehow master the art of herding cats, metaphorically speaking, I promise you, the reward that follows is beyond what you'd expect. I've spent a good part of my working life around independent, strong-willed, opinionated people, the kind who don't naturally fall in line with anybody's plan but their own. And I'll tell you, the temptation is always to wish for a simpler group, people who'll just agree and move along together. But here's what I eventually learned to appreciate. Those independent-minded people are usually the same ones who bring the most creativity, the sharpest insight, and the boldest ideas to whatever you're building. The challenge of bringing them together isn't a flaw in the process. It's actually where a huge amount of the real value comes from. Learn to see the challenge itself as part of the reward, not an obstacle standing in front of it. Here's something genuinely interesting about people. Often, the very folks who would benefit most from a piece of advice are the ones least inclined to take it. How is that possible? I honestly don't know. I can see it clearly from the outside, yet somehow they can't see it in themselves. Maybe they simply aren't ready to see it yet, not at this particular moment in their life. That might be the simplest, most honest explanation there is. Sometimes you just have to accept that as the way things are, rather than exhausting yourself trying to explain every bit of it. Someone you were certain would stick around ends up leaving. And here's what you eventually learn to say, "Isn't that interesting?" And someone you were sure would walk away instead stays. And you find yourself thinking, I wouldn't have guessed that in 100 years. Working closely with people means there's means not surprise, waiting for you nearly every single day. And naturally, some people are kind, and some are considerably less kind. But here's the encouraging part. There really aren't that many of the difficult ones. When I first got started in sales, my mentor sat me down and said, here's the good news. There are really only a handful of truly nasty, miserable, difficult people out there in the whole world. He said they tend to move around a fair bit, so you're bound to run into one occasionally. But when you do, just remind yourself, well, there are only a few more like this person left. I can certainly handle that for the rest of my career. I always appreciated that little piece of wisdom. And sometimes, a bit of wit and humor goes a long way too. It really helps smooth things over. I remember, years back, when I first started traveling and speaking alongside a well-known entrepreneur in the health and wellness world. One of my friends said to me, I heard some people actually died using that product. And without missing a beat, I said, not that many. It was a fairly ridiculous comment he made, so it deserved an equally ridiculous response. You can't answer a silly remark with an overly serious, sincere explanation. I told him, as long as the numbers stay under a certain amount each month, they get to keep selling the product. If it climbs too high, then there's a review. Complete nonsense, obviously, but his comment earned exactly that kind of reply. Or take another example. Somebody says, this just isn't going to work for me. You might respond, well, it was actually designed not to work for some people. What do I know, really? I'm certainly no genius when it comes to figuring all of this out. but being a genuine student of life, and of people, and of all their wonderful variety, and everything unfolding in the world around us. That's what makes this whole experience so endlessly interesting. And while you're here on this earth, learn everything you possibly can. Study everything you possibly can. Some people are easy to be around, and some are genuinely difficult. And part of growing wiser is simply learning how to navigate both kinds with grace. Here's the next word, worth building your communication around: fascination. This one goes a step beyond simple interest. Try to approach the world the way a child does, utterly fascinated by everything around them, endlessly curious, endlessly delighted by small details most adults walk right past. Watch a child encounter a beetle crossing a sidewalk, or a rainbow after a storm, or a new word they've never heard before. There's no boredom in that moment, only wonder. Somewhere along the way, most of us trade that wonder in for routine. Try to buy a little of it back. The more genuinely fascinated you remain by the people and situations around you, the more naturally interesting you become to talk to, and the more naturally people open up in your presence. Next comes sensitivity, genuinely trying to understand where people are coming from, the particular position or circumstance they might be sitting in at that exact moment. Remember, night visits everyone eventually, right after day. Some winters are harsher than others, and some people are quietly going through a genuinely difficult season of their own. Stay sensitive to all of that as you move through your interactions with others. You rarely know the full weight someone else is carrying beneath a calm exterior, and a little extra gentleness costs you almost nothing, while sometimes meaning everything to the person receiving it. And then there's simple knowledge. Gather every useful idea you can that helps make you a more effective communicator. Read widely. Listen closely. Collect good phrases, good stories, good turns of expression, the way some people collect coins or stamps, because language, used well, really is a kind of currency all its own. There's an old story that tells us, in the very beginning, a divine voice spoke and said, "Let there be light," and there was light, suggesting that spoken words carry the power to create illumination. But here's a note worth adding. There's more than one kind of light in this world. Right alongside that grand, original kind of light, there's another kind of light available to every one of us, the light of helping someone else finally see. Using our own language, chosen as carefully and thoughtfully as we know how, to help another person understand something they couldn't grasp before. Imagine someone who genuinely cannot see how they could ever become successful, and you sit down with them, and you share your own story, choosing your words with real care. And when you finish speaking, they look at you and say, "Now I can see. Before you arrived, I was completely in the dark, but now, because of what you've shared, I can finally see clearly." There's a wonderful old expression for that feeling. Something dawned on me, like the sun slowly rising over the horizon. And the longer you spoke, the higher that sun climbed, and the brighter and clearer everything became in their imagination. Helping someone see clearly, truly see, is one of the greatest gifts a person can offer another. One of the sharpest wits in modern history was Winston Churchill. There's a well-known exchange where a frustrated member of parliament once told him that if he were her husband, she would put poison in his coffee. And without a moment's hesitation, he replied that if he were her husband, he would happily drink it. Now, whatever the moment calls for, don't let anyone talk down to you. Words carry extraordinary power when they're framed thoughtfully and delivered with real sincerity. Words that paint vivid pictures, words that capture the fullness of a life lived, words that carry real experience behind them, words that pass along a gift of ideas worth sharing. These truly are among the greatest gifts a person can give. And here's the very best place to start practicing all of this, with your own children. See if you can inspire them, through your own choice of words, with a deeper sense of how meaningful today truly is, a deeper appreciation for doing good work, a deeper understanding of why grades matter, why self-development matters, why becoming the person they want to be starts with the small disciplines practiced now, disciplines that pay off in joy much further down the road. Teaching is genuinely one of the greatest feelings of accomplishment available to any of us. Helping someone learn something new, helping someone take their very first steps into a fresh career, or their first steps as an entrepreneur just starting out, showing them the way forward, using nothing but the gift of words and language. There's an old line from ancient wisdom that fits perfectly here. Words are like a lamp for your feet, so you can see exactly where to walk. That's a genuine gift. And it continues. Words are also like a light along your path, so you can see clearly where you're headed. If someone with a real gift for language and words can help guide you toward the right path to walk and then illuminate the road ahead, they've done you an immeasurable service. Who could ever fully calculate the worth of that kind of generosity? Showing someone the concrete steps to take and showing them the direction to head in, that's genuinely helpful, whatever the situation calls for. Whether it's the path toward better health, the path toward a stronger relationship, the path toward building a business or refining a career, it doesn't matter what the specific goal is. When we know the necessary steps, and someone kindly reveals the way forward using nothing but their own carefully chosen words, they give us one of the truest gifts we could ever receive. So here's what I'd leave you with today. Pay attention to your own words. Notice the ones that light something up in another person, and notice the ones that dim it. Practice choosing your language the way a craftsman chooses their tools, with care, with intention, and with real regard for the person standing in front of you. Think back over your own life for a moment. Chances are you can name at least one sentence, spoken by one particular person, at one particular moment, that quietly changed the direction of everything that followed. Maybe it was a teacher who told you that you had a gift you hadn't noticed in yourself yet. Maybe it was a parent who found exactly the right words on exactly the hardest day. Maybe it was a stranger, someone you barely knew, who happened to say the one thing you needed to hear at the one moment you needed to hear it. Words like that don't announce themselves in advance. They arrive quietly, and their full weight only becomes clear much later, looking back. That's the responsibility and the privilege that comes with this gift of language. You never know, in the moment, which of your own words might become that sentence for somebody else, the one they carry with them for years. So it's worth taking seriously, not in a heavy, anxious way, but in a thoughtful, generous way. Speak to people the way you'd want someone to speak to you on your hardest day. Choose words that build a little light where there was darkness, a little clarity where there was confusion, a little hope where there was doubt. Because somewhere out there, someone is waiting for exactly the right sentence, spoken at exactly the right moment, to finally see their own path clearly, and it just might be you who gets to say it. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I'll look forward to talking with you again soon.